Last Tuesday, I found out I was fired. Not from my manager, not from HR. I found out because someone in accounting forwarded me an email that was meant for a completely different department. An email that listed my name, my salary, and the words effective immediately. Sent 12 hours before anyone bothered to tell me I no longer had a job. I'd been at Meridian Solutions for 7 years. 7 years of hitting every target, mentoring new hires, and building the client analytics division from a 3-person team into a department of 22. I wasn't just an employee. I was the guy they called when deals fell through. The guy who flew to Denver on Christmas Eve because a client threatened to pull their contract. I gave everything to that company. So when the whispers started about restructuring, I wasn't worried. My department was profitable. Our rotation rate was the highest in the company. I figured we'd weather whatever corporate storm was coming. The first sign something was wrong came on a Monday morning. I walked into the office and noticed the energy was different, quieter. People weren't making eye contact. The usual morning chatter at the coffee machine was replaced by tense silence and darting glances. I caught my colleague Marcus in the hallway. He'd been at Meridian almost as long as I had. "What's going on?" I asked. He just shook his head. "Check your email. All hands meeting at 10. Nobody knows what it's about." I went to my desk and opened my inbox. Sure enough, there it was. A calendar invite from the CEO's office. No agenda, no context, just a Zoom link in the subject line, "Important Company Update." My stomach tightened, but I told myself to stay calm. Companies have all-hands meetings all the time. It could be anything, a new product launch, an acquisition, maybe even good news for once. At 9:58, I clicked the Zoom link. The waiting room held 847 participants. 847 people all wondering the same thing I was. At exactly 10, we were all admitted. The CEO appeared on screen. He looked tired, uncomfortable. Behind him was a generic office backdrop, not even his real office. That should have been my first clue. "Good morning, everyone," he began. His voice was flat, rehearsed. "I want to thank you all for joining on such short notice. As you know, the market has presented significant challenges over the past 2 quarters. I tuned out the corporate speak. I'd heard it all before. Revenue shortfalls, strategic realignment, difficult decisions. Then he said the words that made my blood run cold. Effective today, Meridian Solutions will be reducing its workforce by approximately 30%. The chat exploded. Question marks, exclamation points, people asking if this was a joke. The CEO continued, reading from what was clearly a teleprompter. "Those affected will receive an email within the next 2 hours with details about their severance package and transition support. We ask that you refrain from accessing company systems until you've received clarification on your employment status." That was it. No names, no departments, no indication of who was safe and who wasn't. Just 847 people sitting in a Zoom call, wondering if they still had jobs. The call ended after 4 minutes. I sat at my desk, refreshing my inbox every 30 seconds. An hour passed, then 2. People started leaving the office, some crying, some furious, some just numb. I watched 3 of my team members pack boxes. None of them had heard anything directly. They just assumed. By noon, I still hadn't received an email. I started to breathe again. Maybe I was safe. Maybe my department had been spared. That's when Sandra from accounting appeared at my desk. She looked pale. "Derek, can we talk in the conference room?" I followed her, my heart pounding. Sandra wasn't my manager. She wasn't in HR. There was no reason for her to be pulling me aside. She closed the door behind us and handed me her phone. "I don't know if you've seen this. It was sent to our entire department by mistake. I think it was meant for HR." I looked at the screen. It was an email from the Chief Operating Officer. The subject line read, "Confidential, Wave 2 termination list. Do not forward." My name was 7th on the list, right there in plain text. Derek Maffis, Client Analytics, Senior Director. Salary, $142,000. Termination, effective immediately. I scrolled down. There were 156 names on that list. Half of my department was there. People I'd hired, people I'd trained, people who had no idea they were about to lose everything.
"This was sent 3 hours ago, before the Zoom call even started," Sandra said. I looked up at her. They knew. They already knew who they were firing before they even told us about the layoffs. She nodded. "And they sent it to the wrong email distribution list. The entire accounting department saw it. Derek, there are people on this list who are still sitting at their desks right now, waiting for an email that's never going to come because the system glitched." I felt something shift inside me. The shock was fading, replaced with something colder, harder. 7 years, and they couldn't even be bothered to tell me to my face? They sent my termination to the wrong department and didn't even notice.
Hold on, I need to stop here for a second, because this is the moment I had to make a choice. I could have just walked out, packed my things, taken the severance, and moved on, but I had information now. Information that 155 other people deserve to have. Subscribe if you think I should have done what I did next, or drop a comment telling me what you would have done in my shoes, because honestly, I'm still not sure I made the right call. But what happened after this? It changed everything. I thanked Sandra and walked back to my desk, but I didn't pack my things. Instead, I opened a new email and started typing. I forwarded the termination list to every single person whose name was on it. Not to be vindictive, not to cause chaos, but because those people deserve to know. They deserve the chance to prepare, to make phone calls, to not sit there for another 3 hours wondering if they still had jobs while the company fumbled to their incompetent process. Within 20 minutes, my inbox started flooding. Messages from colleagues I'd worked with for years, some thanking me, some furious, not at me, but at the company. Some just sending crying emojis because they didn't have words. And then came the message from HR. "Derek, please report to conference room B immediately." I walked in to find 3 people waiting for me, the HR director, our department's VP, and a woman I didn't recognize who was clearly some kind of legal counsel. The HR director spoke first. "Derek, we understand you've distributed confidential information." "You mean the email you accidentally sent to the entire accounting department? That confidential information?" Silence. The VP shifted uncomfortably. "Regardless of how the information was obtained, forwarding it constitutes a serious breach of company policy." I almost laughed. I was already on the termination list. You were going to fire me anyway. What are you going to do, fire me harder? The legal counsel cleared her throat. "We're concerned about potential liability. Several employees are already threatening legal action based on the information contained in that email." Legal action for what? For being laid off? Or for finding out about it from an accidental email instead of being treated with basic human dignity? The HR director's face tightened. "We had a process in place. Individual notifications were scheduled to go out this afternoon." This afternoon? I stood up. People were sitting at their desks for 5 hours, not knowing if they had jobs. Some of them already left because they assumed. Others were making plans for projects that were never going to happen. And you had a process? I leaned forward. "You know what your process was? Chaos. Your process was a 4-minute Zoom call and a mass email that you couldn't even send to the right people. You laid off 30% of this company, and you couldn't even look us in the eye when you did it." The VP finally spoke. "We understand this is emotional." "Emotional?" I cut him off. "Marcus Chen has been here for 12 years. He found out he was fired from a screenshot someone texted him. Sarah Wong moved across the country for this job 8 months ago. She's still paying off her relocation costs, and you're worried about liability?" I turned to the legal counsel. "You want to know what's actually going to cause liability? The WARN Act. You're required to give 60 days notice for mass layoffs of this size. Did you do that?" The silence told me everything I needed to know. "Yeah," I said. "That's what I thought." I walked out of that conference room and went straight to my desk. I packed my things. 7 years of my life reduced to a single cardboard box. Photos, awards, a coffee mug that said "World's Okayest Analyst" that my team had given me as a joke. But before I left, I made one more stop. I went to Marcus's desk. He was sitting there, staring at nothing, a termination email finally open on his screen. "Come on," I said. "Let's get out of here." We walked out together,
and as we reached the parking lot, I saw something I'll never forget. At least 40 people were gathered near the entrance, all of them from that list. Some were crying, some were hugging, but most of them were exchanging phone numbers, promising to stay in touch, forming the beginnings of a support network that the company had never bothered to provide. One of them, a guy named Tyler from IT, walked over to me. "Thanks for sending that email, man. At least we knew. At least we didn't have to wait." I nodded. It wasn't much, but it was something. Over the next few weeks, the fallout continued. Someone, I never found out who, leaked the mishandled email to a journalist. The story went viral on LinkedIn, then Twitter. Former employees started sharing their experiences. The company's Glassdoor rating dropped from 3.8 to 1.9 in the matter of days. And the legal consequences? 3 separate class action lawsuits were filed. One for WARN Act violations, one for breach of contract regarding promised severance terms, and one for the mishandling of confidential employee data, because that email didn't just have names and salaries. It had social security numbers, home addresses, information that should have never been sent to the wrong distribution list. The CEO resigned 2 months later. The company's stock dropped 18%, and Meridian Solutions became a cautionary tale in every HR seminar about how not to conduct layoffs. As for me, I landed on my feet. A former client heard about what happened and reached out. They'd been looking for someone to build their analytics department from the ground up. Same work I'd been doing, but for a company that actually valued its people. I start next month. Better pay, better culture, and a CEO who personally calls every departing employee to thank them for their service. But I still think about that day. About 847 people staring at a Zoom screen wondering if their careers were over. About a 4-minute call that destroyed lives and offered nothing but corporate platitudes in return. If you're a leader watching this, please, do better. These are people. They have mortgages and families and dreams. They deserve more than a calendar invite and a form email. And if you're someone who's been through something like this, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You deserved better. We all did.
Thank you so much for watching and for letting me share this story. If it resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss more stories like this. And if you've experienced your own workplace nightmare, a terrible boss, an HR disaster, a layoff that was handled horribly, I want to hear from you. Drop your story in the comments or send it to us directly. Your story might be featured in the next video. Until then, take care of yourselves. You matter more than any job ever will.